Hi everyone, welcome back to my first video of 2017, and today I thought I would do a kind of writer's Q&A. I searched on Tumblr for questions for writers. That's literally what I typed into the search bar, and I found a list of questions that I thought would be good to answer because once I get over this stupid writer's block, I am almost done with my book. So, I thought this would be like perfect time to kind of do a Q&A. So there are 11 questions here, so I'm just gonna start. At what point did you discover your interest in writing? Now, I've always loved writing, and I've said I've written ever since I could hold a pencil, but the first story I started to try and write was before I knew anything about plagiarism or copyright, and I basically tried to rewrite Harry Potter. It was horrible and nasty, and I was like, I was like 9 or 10. It was, looking back on it, it was hilarious. Do you have a writer who inspires you? And my answer to that question is Samantha Shannon. She is an amazing, amazing author of this series called The Bone Season, which is one of my favorite series of all time. If anybody lets me, I will talk their ear off about it. It's a really good series, and I follow her on all her social medias and kind of like obsess over her sometimes, so she really does inspire my writing. What is your favorite genre to write is the next question. My favorite genre to write is fantasy/fiction. Like, I'm always giving my characters powers, and like there's always magic in my stories. I find it very boring to write like what I call normal stories. Like I have tried to write stories where characters don't have magic powers or are not witches or wizards, and I just can't do it. I don't have the talent for it because I can't expand my imagination as much because then those things don't exist. And the next question is, what is your biggest writing strength? Some of my writing strengths, I've been told, are the dialogue. Some people that have read my stories for editing have said, like, you have really, really strong dialogue and the conversations are really believable. But I think my strongest suit would probably be description. I love writing description. I find it really fun. What part of your writing do you still need to improve? Side plots, and what I mean by that is like when you have a story, you have, the plot needs to go from point A to point B, but there are all these lines in between that like the plot can go off because like the best friend can have something going on in her life. It makes the story more rich to have multiple things going on, not too many things to confuse the reader. But developing those tiny little plots that like enrich the story, that's something I need to work on. Do you plan a book from beginning to end? No, I have an idea of what's going to happen. I'm like, okay, this is the main plot and this is the main goal, and then I just dive in because it's hard for me to plan. Because if I try to plan chapter by chapter or page by page or tiny plot by tiny plot, it doesn't go well and it ends up being really dry. So I have an idea of a beginning and a middle and an end, and then I just go for it. What part of writing a story do you hate is the next question. My inner critic, because then it gets, it's so hard to get anything done because your inner critic is like, it's horrible, meh, 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 and you can't, you need to get out of your head, but the voice is in your head, and it's very hard to get out of your head when that little voice keeps talking. You're in writer's block, what gets you out of it? For me, it depends on each time I have writer's block, because right now I have writer's block. Like, I could have finished my story by now and it could be published, but I'm stuck in this writer's block. It's been about a month now. So taking a break, not worrying about too much, but not letting too much time pass. Like just the other day I sat down and I forced myself to write about a paragraph, and that was the most I had written in like 3 weeks. So just take a break, don't think about it as much, and listening to music is also a great thing. Does music help you write? Yes, it does. I love listening to music while writing. I do find that listening to music with lyrics can sometimes be distracting because then I end up getting up and having a dance party instead of sitting down and writing. So I've made a playlist of just instrumental music that's kind of a little bit more calming, a little more serene, so I don't have the urge to like get up and do something else or just listen to the music. Like, it is literally just background music, but it does help me focus. Do you have any favorite stories or books? Yes, I do. One of my favorite books of all time is Gifts from the Sea by Natalie Kinsey Warnock, and then Gillian Flynn is one of my favorite authors. I loved Gone Girl, and Sharp Objects was another one of my favorites from her, and of course Samantha Shannon and the books that she's coming out with. The last question is, what are some common themes in your stories? It always is the magic, really. Right now I'm writing a series, and I have been writing that same series since I was 15, and I might get some other story ideas, but the main theme really is always having magic powers. I hope this serves as a motivation to kind of get myself back into gear. Hopefully it helps me push through the writer's block talking about my writing publicly again. I hope everybody had a great start to 2017.